Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jamie Medina again with the Dark Pod 24. So, this episode's about Game of Drones. Are they drones, UFOs, secret government projects, hobbyists, enthusiasts? What is it? You know what I mean? We don't exactly know, do we? What we do know is that official sources, such as, say, Department of Homeland Security Mayorkas states, the FBI and DHS have no idea what they are, or perhaps the public has mistaken identity of these aircraft as possible manned aircraft or drones. Well, I don't know, man. Let's get into it. Be advised, though, Secretary Mayorkas is also the individual who said the border is secure. The border is secure. So consider that source. Now, what else do we have on the news? We're seeing lawmakers stating they have no idea of what these are and no idea how to identify these things, which I'm telling you is absolute BS. With my knowledge, experience, and application of both as a U.S. Air Force JTAC, I can tell you absolutely they know what these are. They, meaning are the U.S. government. I'm going to use other words so I don't use certain words that may get me banned or this video kicked out. But my sources at the Octagon tell me that they know what they are. They didn't tell me what they are, but they obviously know what they are. So this whole thing makes me think of one thing, because as we know, all drones have cameras. Some have very sophisticated cameras, IR, FLIR, thermal imaging, all different kinds of cameras, right? So somebody is monitoring something. So for me, that becomes a constitutional issue, right? Meaning specifically the Fourth Amendment. Now I'm going to read some notes that I wrote here because I want to get this right, make sure I'm not misquoting anything, all right? So Fourth Amendment of the Constitution says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So, in your house, you have a reasonable right to privacy. All right, so any person may conclude these drones are violating the Fourth Amendment. A reasonable person may also ask, how do we know what they are? Well, it's a reasonable statement to say, we don't know what they are. But it's common knowledge that drones do have all these recording devices. Thermal imaging devices, meaning they can see through your house, through your roof, to the side of your house, hot or cold. They can see what you're up to. And you know what? Actually, there's a U.S. Supreme Court case in 2001 that's similar to this in a way, where it's a U.S. Supreme Court case, Kylo versus the U.S., where the Supreme Court ruled that using thermal imaging devices to monitor a person's home without a warrant violates your Fourth Amendment. So they're not saying that they're doing this. We don't know that they're doing this, but we also don't know that they're not doing this, right? So the case established that using technology to obtain information about the inside of your home that would otherwise require physical intrusion is considered a search. So if someone is running a drone with any type of thermal imaging, you don't know that they're not, then they're illegally searching your home, which violates your Fourth Amendment right. Now, the question would be, do drones outflank the Fourth Amendment? I can give you one word, two-letter word. No, they don't. The Fourth Amendment, again, which says the right to the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, right? This has been the cornerstone of our privacy from the U.S. government since 1791, right? We're talking 2 centuries. Despite technological advances, doesn't matter, still applies, right? This cannot be a new normal. Again, is this reason to believe that no one is not searching? We don't know who the no one is yet. So I say very clearly, very carefully, very safely, bring them down. Now, is this a reason to blow it out of the sky? Well, you need to answer that for yourself. There would be consequences, legal and otherwise. If I'm asked a question and I've got all these weird things flying around, I know they're monitoring something. I know I'm not doing anything wrong, but someone's looking in my house, potentially or not potentially, I don't know. But I want to know. You have a right to know, right? So if I'm asked the question, is it worth it to blow one of these out of the sky? My answer is clear. Yes, absolutely. Take me to court, bring me to court, and I'll have a piece of this thing saying, oh, I know who it is now. Since you can't provide information for me, it's up to me to know what's going on around my surroundings, right? So in the case of these things being flown all over the East Coast, man, local federal law enforcement have admitted, we don't know what they are. Our leaders and lawmakers, we don't know what they are. So it's up to us as Americans to find out what this is. Again, bring them down safely. Okay, there's a couple things to consider now, right? Just to give you some hardline facts. In the United States, the legal altitude for hobbyist drones is 400 feet or below controlled, which is the controlled class G per the FAA airspace, right? So altitude. Now, most consumer drones are limited to 400 feet. That means they're not tracked by FAA. That means when you go to Flight Radar 24 to see all the airlines and everything flying around your airspace, to include rotary wing, fixed wing, manned, or unmanned, these are seen by the FAA, which you can track on your phone through Flight Radar 24. I love that app. It's really cool. Okay, so toy drones are typically designed to fly in altitudes 100 to 150 feet. They're intended for recreational use in relatively confined spaces like your backyard, right, or parks, open area fields, stuff like that. So I can tell you right now, the images that we're seeing on the news or what they're posting out there on the news or Google or whatever, like this. As you can see, this looks like a rotary wing drone and two fixed wing aerial drones. But you can see them quite clearly, can you not? These are between 100 and 150 feet. This means they don't apply to the FAA. See, this is where the contradiction comes in, because FAA says, yes, if you bring them down, you can be charged with something. So these are obviously not manned aerial vehicles. A manned aerial vehicle, fixed-wing aircraft, planes, Cessna, etc., would be tracked by the FAA, meaning on flight radar. They're not manned. Don't worry about it. And they have sophisticated camera equipment. That's something I worry about. Okay, so to roughly, now I'm going to give you a couple cues here, what to look for the person, just for SA, or situational awareness. To roughly estimate a drone's altitude with a naked eye, compare its apparent size to familiar objects on the ground, right? Consider the distance between you and that familiar object on the ground, right? Use some visual cues, like your perspective, to gauge its height. However, this method is highly inaccurate if you don't know what you're doing, right? So I'll give you a couple key points to consider, okay? So relative size, right? If you know the approximate size of an object on the ground directly beneath the drone, like a car or a person, compare how much smaller the drone appears in relation to that, okay? So you can estimate its height. Like the picture that I showed you, that's about 150 feet, man, 150 feet. So that's not government, has nothing to do with it. Law enforcement said it's not theirs. Take it down, safely. Right? Okay, now perspective, right? As an object gets further away, it appears smaller, obviously. So use a visual cue to gauge it. So like if you're on the ground and you say, oh, I know this church steeple in town is X amount high from the naked eye, where I'm standing in my house, my roof, wherever it may be, and the drone is hovering, say, over that, you can kind of gauge its distance, right? So you can range it, right? And of course, the angle of observation, right? The steeper the angle you were looking at the drone, the higher it likely is, okay? So it's important to remember that removing a drone yourself without following the proper procedures could result in legal consequences. If it were me, bring it. I say bring it. I'm going to take this thing down. I don't know who's spying around my house, searching what I'm doing. I'm not doing nothing wrong, and I'll prove it by taking this thing down. I think the juice is worth the squeeze. But that's me. That's Jamie. That's what I would do. Straight up, man. Straight up. So, but consider that before taking any action. Now, there are 4 legal ways, I say again, 4 legal ways to disable a drone, right? So these are effective countermeasures that you can impart on yourself. Now, it's up to you to do your own research on how to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to do that, but I'll tell you ways to do it, okay? So GPS spoofing, right? GPS spoofing is a technique used to confuse the drone's navigational system, right? By broadcasting another GPS signal in its vicinity, okay? RF jamming, or radio frequency jamming. You can use certain radios and certain radio frequencies to angle or directionally point at them to scramble their frequencies, right? So the remote controller won't be able to control it, and boom, there it goes. Here's your proof. Take it into the police, call the news first, let them know what you found. Drone nets. Now, there are certain devices that you can use to use extend a net and catch it, man, and bring it down. I mean, these are legal ways of doing it, right? So there's certain launchers. Look it up yourself. I would say if you are going to look these things up, use dogpile.com or yandex.com, as other search engines there'll be consequences. Now, my favorite, alternate ways to bring these down? Well, one way to do it would be a laser pointer, okay, which obstructs the operator's view, and it looks like this. It looks just like this, okay? So when you take your little laser back here, right, as you can see, you, well, obstruct the view. Can you follow the green light, everyone? Follow the green light. Do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see the green light? Yes. Just a little laser device, like so, okay? This is legal. It's allowed for you to have by the government. Usually these things are mounted on the bottom of other projectile devices, such as weapons, right? It's a Cat 3G laser. What it does is it would heat up the cameras, it would distort it, and they would see, again, this picture. If it's close enough, really close enough, what you would do would take your little steel BBs, like so, right? And depending upon if it's over your house and you're a good shot, what you want to do is get your slingshot and just knock that SOB out of the sky, man. Or, you know, airsoft, paintball, other projectile things that you could use to take these things down if they're like hovering right above you, right? Once again, if you do this, do it safely. Be aware of your background. What goes up must come down, right? We all know that. So if you're shooting little steel BBs at it, or correction, lobbing little steel BBs at it, or my favorite, right? Your little laser device and obscure it, and that thing's just going to end up whacking into a tree or something. And then you have it, and then you have proof. Call the news. Go on X. Use your alternate means before you call other agencies. But like I said, man, be aware of that, though. Be aware. Use your common sense, okay? After all, man, like I said, we don't know who this is. Our official sources have told us they don't know who this is, right? Is it the Iranians? Is it the Chicons? I mean, is it freaking, right? It could be freaking Cobra Commander, bro, and Destro. If you have Cobra Commander and Destro, bro, over your house, guess what? Sorry, guys. You're going down. Whoa, Cobra Commander, Destro. Or, I'm sorry. No, wait a minute. It's Dr. Mindbender. It's Dr. Mindbender. Sorry, I gave you false intel. Anyway, Dr. Mindbender, and Destro. Bro, I don't want them flying over my house. They're doing some evil shit. So, like I said, take it down safely. Use your common sense, man, and bring them down. So conclusion, man. So what I went over, you know, in reference to this, in reference to the drones or whatever the hell it may be, we went over the Fourth Amendment, right? Your right to privacy, which I think automatically you can assume it's being messed with. All right. In the 2001 case, Kylo versus the U.S., that actually protects you. So bring it down. Altitude determination, how to get the right angle and use your perspective of finding out what altitude it is, right? And of course, alternate ways to safely bring this down. Consider the consequences, I must say that, okay? But for me, the juice would be worth the squeeze, 100%. 100%, dude. Done. So bring it down. Hey guys, once again, this is Jamie with the DarkPod 24. My fellow Americans, please be safe. And as President Kennedy once said, who hated any type of secret societies or secretive things going on, stated there are risks and costs to action, but they are far less than the long-range risks of comfortable inaction. Food for thought. Again, guys, take care. Bye.